I'm standing in a mountain valley in the Tian Shan mountain range on the border of Kazakhstan and northwestern Xinjiang. Behind me, the peaks rise sharp and green, but if you look closely, you can see the scars. Tears cut into the rocks like giant steps, ridges of stone that look like they were pushed aside by something massive. And at my feet, a river flows over stones that have no business here. I have spent 30 years studying geology, hydrology, and fluvial geomorphology, analyzing the canyons, riverbeds, and mountain passes, asking a simple question: what really happened here? What I've found changed everything I thought I knew about the Earth, and I want to share it with you, not as a theory, but as a testimony, because the stones cry out, and if we listen, they tell a story that no classroom, no textbook, and no secular documentary has ever told. Let's start with what we're told. Told that mountains formed over millions of years, that rivers carved canyons slowly, the glaciers scraped valleys, that Earth is ancient, 4.5 billion years old, and everything we see is a result of a slow, gradual process. But there's a problem. That story doesn't fit the evidence. And if you spend enough time in the mountains, you start to see it. Take the tiers on the canyon walls. Step after step, carved into the rock, wide at the top, narrow as you go down. Secular geologists call them fluvial terraces and say they formed over millions of years as rivers cut down through slowly rising land. But that doesn't make sense. If the river was cutting for millions of years, why are the steps so clean? Why are they so uniform on both sides of the canyon? Why is there no rubble at the bottom? The answer is simple. They weren't cut slowly. They were cut rapidly. As the water level dropped, it paused at certain levels long enough to carve a flat terrace. Then it dropped again, carving the next tier. Each step is a record of a pulse, a stage of drainage. Not millions of years, just weeks or months of catastrophic flow. And this is where the biblical account changes everything. Genesis 7 and 8 describe a global flood that covered the mountains and then receded. It wasn't just rain. It was the breaking up of the fountains of the great deep, massive underground water chambers that burst open, releasing unimaginable energy. The crust of the earth was shattered. Continents moved. Mountains rose. Valleys sank. And the water had to go somewhere. Psalm 104 gives us the clearest picture. The mountains rose, the valleys sank down to the place that you appointed for them. That's not poetry, that's geology. The mountains were pushed up during the flood, and as they rose, the floodwaters rushed off them, carving channels, canyons, and valleys in a fraction of the time secular science demands. And here's what you don't hear in any classroom. When the floodwaters receded, they didn't just drain off quietly. They carved entire river systems across entire continents. They picked up stones from hundreds of miles away and deposited them in places they had no business being. They sorted sediments, rounded boulders, and laid down layers of rock that looked like they took millions of years, but didn't. The evidence is everywhere. You just gotta know what you're looking at. Pick up a stone from any riverbed in this valley. Look at it. What do you see? It's rounded, smooth, like it's been tumbled. That takes water, lots of it. Not only erosion, but violent churning flow that smashes stones against one another and grinds off their sharp edges. Now look at the colors. Green, red, purple. Each color tells a story. The white stones are quartz, formed from silica-rich fluids deep in the earth. The red stones are iron-rich, oxidized in water. The green stones have been altered by heat and pressure. The purple stones come from ancient volcanic activity. And the conglomerates? They're a mix of different stones that were cemented together, sometimes with whole pebbles of various colors and origins. But here's the clue. This stone you see here didn't come from this valley. It came from a different mountain, different elevation, different source of rock. Some of these traveled hundreds of miles before they ended up here, at my feet. How do I know? Because they don't match the local bedrock. The mountains around me are made of specific rock types, but I'm finding stones of all kinds, from all directions, all mixed together. The only process that could do that is a catastrophic water transport on a massive scale. This is one of the best kept secrets of modern geology. The stones at my feet are evidence of a global event. They were carried here by water, fast, powerful, and relentless. But what about glaciers? Secular geologists will tell you that most of the features we see, the U-shaped valleys, the moraines, the erratics, were carved by ice, not water. I've been to those moraines. I've walked along ridges of rock that look like they've been pushed up by glaciers, and I've seen the scars on the mountain slopes, striations, scratches, and polished surfaces that look like glacial action. But there is a problem. Glaciers cannot move stones hundreds of miles. They cannot mix stones from different sources. They can only do so locally in the mountain ranges in their area. They cannot carve wide, tiered valleys, and they certainly cannot carve canyons through solid rock, especially not in the patterns we see. The secular model requires these glaciers to have advanced and retreated multiple times over millions of years. But the evidence doesn't match that story. The features we see could just as easily, and I would argue more logically, be explained by catastrophic floodwater drainage off the rising mountains and massive ice sheets that formed rapidly during the post-flood ice age. In fact, if you look at the moraines at the high saddles, you'll see ridges of rock that were pushed aside by ice, but no glaciers today. The ice is gone. All that's left is the debris. That doesn't prove a slow ice age, it proves a rapid one. The glaciers formed quickly, carved quickly, melted quickly, and left behind their debris, all within a few hundred years at most. This fits the biblical timeline, and it doesn't require millions of years. Now here's where it gets profound. In this valley, it's several kilometers wide, flanked by mountains on both sides. A river runs through the middle. The valley is clearly a channel, a path for water, and if you look at the surrounding mountains, you'll see that they are positioned in a way that collects and directs water towards this valley. It's not random, it's a system. And if an alien came to Earth and looked at the human body, they would immediately recognize the veins and arteries are channels for blood. They would know that the body was designed for fluid flow. So why can't secular geologists look at a mountain range and see the same thing? The topography of the Earth is not random. The mountains are placed strategically as water sources. The valleys are placed strategically as channels. The river systems are placed strategically to bring water across entire continents. And the stones, the sediment, the erratics, all of it was placed and sorted and deposited in a way that makes sense. But secular geology refuses to see design. It insists on random processes. It insists on millions of years. It insists that everything we see is the result of chance and time, not purpose. But the evidence doesn't support that. The evidence supports a catastrophic event, a flood, that reshaped the Earth in a short period of time, and then calmed into an orderly system we see today. The mountains rose, the valleys sank, the waters drained, and the rivers were appointed to their courses. I'm at the divide. I wouldn't call it continental, but it is the Tian Shan Mountain divide right here. So all that snow melt coming down, you see the headwaters here. But if you look at this end, at these mountains up here, past that parking lot up there, is now going in the opposite direction. So that's going to be going to the south. This is going north. The waters divide here. I've spent days walking through valleys like these. I've seen the tiers, the moraines, the mixed stones, the wide corridors. I've traced the water's path from the mountain peaks down to the valleys. And I've sat at the riverbank watching the sunset and thought about what it means. The flood was real. It happened, and it was a judgment, a global judgment on a sinful world, but it was also a preparation. The same waters that judged the world also carved the channels that would sustain future civilizations. The same mountains that rose to force the water off the land also trapped the snow and rain that feed the rivers today. The same valleys that were carved by catastrophic flow are now home to farms, cities, and families. God didn't just judge the world, He prepared it for the world to come. And that's what I see when I look at this valley, a place that was shaped by judgment, yes, but also a place that was appointed for blessing. The stones you hold in your hand are not random. They are witnesses. Every stone, every pebble, every grain of sand, they all point to the same truth, that the flood was real, that God judged the world, and that He is still sovereign over the planet He created. If you've ever doubted the Bible, I want to encourage you to look at the ground, look at the canyons, look at the mountains. They are all telling you the same story that Genesis tells you. They are crying out. And they're not just the only ones. The evidence is everywhere, in the salt of the oceans, in the layers of the Grand Canyon, in the moraines of the Tian Shan where I am, in the rounded stones of every riverbed. The earth is a testimony to judgment and mercy. So the next time you hold a stone in your hand, ask yourself, where did this come from? How did it get here? What does it tell me about the world and about God? Because the stones don't lie, and they cry out to a generation that has forgotten its Creator. After studying all of this for over 30 years, I've come to a conclusion. The evidence for the flood is overwhelming. It's in the rocks, it's in the valleys, it's in the stones at my feet, and it's waiting to be seen by anyone willing to look. That's why I'm making this video, to share what I've seen, to point others to the truth, and to show the Bible is not just a religious book. It's a historical and geological record of the greatest event in the history of the planet. The flood was real, the world was judged, and the stones still cry out today.